So good morning, Year 8. Just a short presentation to give you a much better idea about what GCSE history is like here at Abbey College. As you can see from the slide, we study 5 topics over the GCSE course. They're all of equal rating, they're all worth 20% of your final grade. We start in Year 9 with a course called People's Health, which looks at how healthcare and living conditions have changed in our country from the medieval period all the way through to the present day. And a lot of this will be familiar to you from topics that you studied in Year 7, like the Black Death and the Great Plague of 1665, and things like John Snow and the fight against cholera and Bazalgette sewers. And this year, when you've learnt about medical treatment during World War I and the setting up of the NHS. So lots of these topics, we've taught you them in Year 7 and Year 8 to give you a familiarity for this very unit. So we've got you ready for that. And that idea of where we're teaching you things at Key Stage 3 that are going to help you with Key Stage 4 continues obviously with the next unit, which is living under Nazi rule. You can see this rather fine portrait of Adolf Hitler up here, who is of course the person that you are learning about at the moment in Year 8 history, and you're learning about how he rose to power and what life in Germany was like under his rule. So the reason we teach you that in Year 8 is to give you a really good introduction to this, so that when you come back to it in Year 9 as part of the GCSE course, you're already on familiar territory and we can go into a lot more depth with it. And then the third course that you'll study in Year 9 is on Viking expansion. We've got our rather fine Viking longship down here. And of course, again, topic that you had some lessons in Year 7 that we taught you about in the beginning, the first half term of Year 7, you learned about the Vikings. There is a lot more to the story of the Vikings, these amazing early medieval sea pirates and adventurers and explorers and settlers and conquerors, much more to their story than you learned about in Year 7. And that's what we focus on in Year 9. And then in Year 10, 2 more elements to the course. The Norman Conquest. Again, that's a topic which you've got some familiarity with, because in Year 7 we taught you about William the Conqueror, the Battle of Hastings of 1066, and how William established his control over England. Again, there is much more to that story than we could ever have possibly taught you in Year 7, and we're sure that you'll have a lot of fun finding out about that topic in much more depth. And then last of all, we've got here the ruined medieval Abbey Gatehouse down here in the bottom right-hand corner. That's because the last part of the GCSE is called History Around Us, and we focus on the story of Ramsey from its foundation as a medieval abbey. Of course, the reason why our school is called Abbey College is because it's named in memory of Ramsey Abbey, the monastery that stood here back in the 10th century. And what's really interesting about that course is that it's all about using what's around us. So we make our way around the school, we go around town, and we look at the physical evidence, things like the ruined Abbey Gatehouse, to get a much better idea of what that evidence can tell us about the medieval and early modern town and abbey of Ramsey. Now, the only other thing to mention as well is that obviously to accompany these courses that we like to get you out and about. That's not something that's been very practical obviously in the last year, but hopefully as things change, we have every intention of running our day-long visit to the Holocaust Memorial Centre in Year 9, where there's usually the opportunity to meet with a Holocaust survivor. And then obviously usually in Year 10 as well, we run a trip to Germany and Poland to visit Berlin and Auschwitz, which are obviously key locations in the story of Nazi Germany. So these visits are amazing experiences in their own right. That Germany and Poland trip is a week long. These are amazing visits in their own right, but they really help you as well with your studies. So I hope that's given you a much better idea of what history is like here at Abbey College, and thank you very much for your time.